Snowboarding has always been an exciting action sport to witness anywhere. The feeling of going down the snowy mountains as the white powder brushes off your board is kinda therapeutic to watch. And then you see footage of an absolute unit base dropping off of Mount Olympus. Because of that, snowboarding has become one of the most dangerous sports that ever existed. And to an introverted shut-in like me, it was the coolest thing in the world. So naturally, because snowboarding is expensive and dangerous, I instead resorted to video games. And what better video game to showcase how crazy snowboarding can be than SSX? SSX was a fast-paced arcade-style snowboarding game that emphasized racing down a super elaborate track and performing tricks to gain boost to move faster. It was also the first game for the EA Sports big branch of Electronic Arts, which was responsible for making a bunch of arcade-style sports games. The SSX name continued to evolve and made tricking on the snowboard a major selling point, aka doing pirouettes on the tail of the board, straight up cutting your body in half. The world's your oyster. But as the games kept piling up with more and more features being added, the charm and identity of the series were diminishing as a result. And then there was a terrible game with motion controls that made you want to rip your eyeballs out. With the decline of arcadey sports games, EA Sports Big had to officially close their doors for good in 2008. But there was still something cooking in the Electronic Arts offices. The SSX franchise was one of their highest rated series they've ever made. The last title couldn't have been whatever this attempt was. So in E3 2010, we were shown this teaser, and calling this trailer confusing is a complete understatement. This reboot was originally going to be called SSX Deadly Descents, and it was supposed to be a dark and gritty snowboarding game where you jumped out of a helicopter and had to survive some of the deadliest mountains in the world. But really, it felt like that one Modern Warfare 2 mission.
Come in, Captain Price. The President wants us to rendezvous at Mount Everest. We have to shred this North.
So 2 years passed, everything would be more colorful and vibrant, and the game would just be renamed to SSX. Released for the Xbox 360, PS3, and a Sony Xperia smartphone somehow. The game still utilized wingsuits and ice axes for you to make it down these mountains. But was the game still as fun and arcadey feeling as previous installments? Well, let's take a look at SSX 2012, the final game in the franchise. In this game, returning riders Zoe Payne and Mac Fraser team up with surfing legend Tane Mumea to form Team SSX, which stands for Snowboarding, Surfing, and Motocross. It was originally Snowboard Supercross, and yes, I didn't name it correctly in my previous video, but whatever, we're not going to talk about it. Instead of racing down a mountain as fast as you can, the game is now about bringing together the best riders from all over the world to conquer the 9 deadliest descents from every mountain range. But another fan favorite, Griff Simmons, takes most of the money, bails on Team SSX, and decides to conquer the deadly descents on his own. Being left behind with no pocket money, the team has to livestream the event to audiences around the world to get the funding they need to conquer these mountains. And with that, you get thrown out of a helicopter to what appears to be the endless abyss. The game gives you 2 tutorials before you even set foot near a deadly descent. The first one tells you how to perform tricks, the bread and butter of any SSX game. The left stick is dedicated to your spins and flips, and the right stick is dedicated to your grabs, which can then be tweaked using R2 or RT. Perform tricks to get boost. Do enough and you get into your first tricky state, giving you unlimited boost and the ability to perform basic uber tricks. Keep doing tricks to fill the tricky text and you get into the super tricky state. You know you have it when the game plays a remix of Run DMC's iconic song. Signature tricks also make a return and can be done by holding both the triggers and doing a grab while you're in super tricky state. You can also deploy your wingsuit or use your piece of gear by pressing R1 or RB, but we'll get more into that later. Then we get to the second part of the tutorial. And this is where the game wants you to forget everything you know about the SSX series. Hovering around is done using the left stick and jumping is done by pushing up on the right stick. Nose and tail presses are done using 2 of the face buttons, not needing to balance for either one. Grinding on red rails can be done automatically by moving towards them, but you have to hold L2 or LT to grind on broken trees or sharp ridges. Instead of balancing, you can do some cool spins and tricks on them with the face buttons. They're so cool that sometimes the music will even jam out with you as you spin. If you launch high enough, then your character will trick on the helicopter that follows you and instantly fill your boost meter. But the tricky state will never tell you how long you have until it runs out, so you're left to blindly do tricks and guess if it was good enough to keep unlimited boost. The newest feature exclusive to this game is called the Rewind, which replaced the recovery and the get your ass back on the track features. If you crash, didn't do a good enough trick, or are about to fall off the face of the earth, then you can hold L1 or LB to rewind a few seconds back to hopefully correct your mistakes. The time doesn't stop while you're rewinding, and there's a point penalty that applies to your current combo. But those are the basics, and there's so many things to unpack that it can overwhelm new players. You can change your control scheme to what it was in previous games, but this one is played extremely differently. You'll be jumping around and making a bunch of adjustments on the fly, and doing that with classic controls will just make your fingers numb. With all that out of the way, now we have to train with our team members. In order to conquer each deadly descent, we have to go down practice descents in the neighboring mountains. Here you have to compete in your typical race and trick events against your teammates or a Ghost of Griff, which will give you in-game credits and increase your character's level. Each mountain range has 3 types of mountains: an event mountain, a backcountry mountain, and the deadly descent mountain. Event mountains are the safest mountains you'll come across and will only have your typical race it and trick it events. Then there's the backcountry mountain, which gives you a taste of what the deadly descent has to offer while competing against your teammates. Here you have to start using specialized gear that are exclusive to every mountain range to survive the run. For example, the first mountain range you're in, the Rockies, you have to go through a fortress of trees without losing a limb, and equipping some body armor will help you make it through in one piece. Then we get to the main gimmick of the game, the deadly descent. This mountain only has 1 drop, and your goal here is to survive it. So you have to use your gear if you want to go down it in one piece. Or not, you don't have to, I'm not your mother. And when you are going down these deadly descents, you have a limited number of rewinds you can use. These mountains make you prioritize safety over anything else, so you have to take your time and really utilize short hopping to get through a section of trees. After you bag your first deadly descent, you go to the next mountain range to recruit your next teammate, unlock a comic about why they joined Team SSX in the first place, and go through the next mountain as them. Rinse and repeat all of that 8 more times, and you have the entire story mode of the game. So a bit repetitive like the previous games, but the deadly descents at the end of each mountain range make up all the variety and really put you on edge in different ways. Patagonia has you play as Elise and use a wingsuit to jump over huge gaps that would otherwise have you turned into a pile of meat. The wingsuit is still pretty fun to use though, and you could get some serious air from it. Siberia is responsible for having super thin ice, so you have to use ice axes, playing as newcomer Alex, to properly steer yourself in the right direction. Alaska is home of avalanches, and Tane has to use armor if he wants to ride the wave down the deadly descent. The game also changes point of view to Crash Bandicoot mode, where you're riding away from the avalanche and have to navigate across death ridges. Moby has to survive the cold in Antarctica, so just stay in the sunlight and avoid tunnels, that's pretty much it. For the Himalayas, Kaori has to conquer Mount Everest's high altitude condition by using an oxygen tank. In the Alps, Simon has to avoid rocks. Ooh, so scary. Then Mac has to go to Africa to ride down a snow-filled volcano in the dark. To do this, you need to have a headlamp attached to your head so you can see where you go. So trying to do spins and flips can be scary for your vision down this map, especially when you're jumping over active lava. And the last deadly descent is in New Zealand, where the fog covers the air. So you need these pulse goggles in order to see the terrain. Ty is the last person you play as, who nearly freaking dies just by entering the mountain. But this time Griff is there with him, so instead of surviving, you have to race him down the mountain and avoid falling down countless empty abysses. After beating Griff, you win, I guess. Woo. But hang on a second. Griff still wants to challenge Zoe to one more race down the deadliest mountain out there. This race isn't like any other though. You have to utilize 3 pieces of gear and have 3 different sections for it. A headlamp for going through a dark ice cave, a wingsuit to jump over massive gaps, and armor for the avalanche near the end. And once you complete it, Griff is just stranded on the mountain and has nowhere else to go. And the game just ends. Boy, do I have some questions. First off, why is Tane a co-founder of SSX when I've never heard of this dude before? If it's Team SSX versus Griff, and Griff is capable of conquering all 9 deadly descents on his own, why do I have to assemble a team to do it? Why did I have to be a different character for every mountain range when Griff can just breeze by them more effectively? I mean, I'd rather play as Griff now. The guy's league's better. Why are you pitting SSX characters to go to these mountain ranges and see who survives when they are literally God? Why am I questioning the story of a sports game? It's not that serious. Other than the World Tour, there is an Explore mode where you can choose any character, each having their unique set of stats, and compete in harder Race It, Trick It, and Survive It events to get even more credits. And although there's a bunch of mountain drops you can choose from, they all sort of blend into one another. I know these drops are based off of real-life mountains, but it didn't fit in with what you did in the game. Most of these drops just felt so boring to play in. And I think the devs knew that, so they added these long red rails everywhere. Like, pretty much every mountain drop you can think of has these red rails. So that was an easy fix that really tied together everything and made the whole experience more enjoyable, right? Right? Wrong! If anything, it felt out of place with the environment this game was going for. They're just there for the player to get away from everything else the mountain has to offer. Also on these drops, there are these snowflakes you can collect to get more credits and level your character up quickly. Some of these are very well placed and could take a couple of attempts to collect them. They can be a really good way to get credits early if you want to collect all... Oh, no thank you, I'm good. But if you ever want to go for gold, then you have to absolutely optimize your run. If you're in a race event, then tail pressing while boosting is your go-to. Or if you knew where the rewind barriers were, you could use a wingsuit to fly across curves. This was the best way to go down the mountain fast, especially with how these courses were laid out. If you're in the trick event, then you want to take as many jumps as you can while increasing your combo multiplier and alternating signature tricks. The game doesn't tell you how much your current trick is worth, so it's hard to tell whether you're doing good or not. To compete in survival events in Explore mode, you have to descend the mountain as many times as you can, with a higher total distance traveled being counted for the medal. You get the same rewind restrictions when you were in a deadly descent, but now the gear you chose degrades over time, and you can't regenerate it. So in the end, once you pick a survival event, just know you're always going to crash and burn by the end of it. So that's good to know, but sometimes these gold medal requirements may be too difficult to earn by skill alone, so then you'd have to resort to using the store to have a better chance. Whether that be selecting different glowing outfits that give you additional stats, better boards, better pieces of gear, or outfits that give you big head and hands. Just like any sports game in the mid-2000s, you just had to have it. You can also purchase these one-time use boosters to use in your run, which further increases your stats. And then there's this geotag feature. Basically, you can put down your own snowflake, which costs credits to get and accumulates credits while other people online try to collect it. If that geotag stays up for more than a day or so and nobody can obtain it, then you get all of the credits that geotag accumulated, which should give you a profit in the long run. So it really helps to hide it in hard to reach areas, or in places that no one else knows are broken. Then the last mode here are global events, your online mode and only form of multiplayer in this game. No more couch co-op and no more reason to make friends in real life. Thank you, EA. Here you get to compete with other players online in these timed events. Each event has their own entry fee and a prize pool. The total prize pool would be distributed between the top 5 players, with the top player getting the most amount of credits. You could also make your own events for you and your online friends to see who among you is better at a snowboarding game and will never talk to each other for 13 plus years. But that's what global events are, and you can get a ton of credits just by placing in any one of these. So the game does give you opportunities in these timed events to keep playing and earn credits. It's not truly pay to win. Unless you actually pay for a credit pack, then it kind of is. As far as features goes, that's really all SSX 2012 has to offer. The game did get a few updates, which changed the scenery of some levels, added a 3-2-1 go mode in global events, which let 5 players go against each other simultaneously, aka an actual online mode, and freeride mode. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, there wasn't a freeride mode at launch. You couldn't go to these huge mountains freely to find shortcuts or the numerous snowflakes hidden in the track. Kind of ridiculous considering how big these mountains are. There were also DLC available for this game, which includes playing the game as Eddie from Tricky if you pre-ordered the game, and Travis Rice from Life, as well as a new mountain range, Japan, which was all eventually given to people for free, so paying for it didn't matter. Then another DLC released was a new mountain range called Mount Eddie with 7 classic characters. These weren't just skins, but their own characters for you to level up and acquire gear for. Some of them looked really good, others look the opposite of good, and Mount Eddie itself brings out some of the toughest challenges the game has to offer. The mountain is just one long line with a few separate drops, but it was designed like one of the circuit levels from the previous games. There's big jumps, fireworks everywhere, colorful billboards, even an entire Mount Rushmore of some of SSX's fan favorites. This mountain range is the best track that was developed for this game, and probably what the whole game should have been in the first place. Besides all of that, the game is still very fun to play. The story doesn't make that much sense, but who cares what does in this game? The game feels good to play, and doing tricks feel just as good. Maybe a little too good. There were times where the game felt over-responsive with how quickly you were able to do tricks, and it didn't feel super satisfying to land a 10 times front flip signature trick. There wasn't a huge consequence for doing uber tricks. They felt like performing any other trick in the game, and you could just let go of them right before you hit the ground and you still wouldn't bail. That feeling is amplified once you start increasing your character's stats or use better equipment. You start losing track of what your character is doing, and it feels like you're spazzing out in the air. At least in previous games, there was a consequence to doing uber tricks. They were risky to perform, and at least you could tell what you were doing in the air. In this game, you could do an uber trick anytime you jumped. It was just way too much. It seemed like the people at EA wanted to exaggerate the crazy tricks and scoring you could do in previous games, but how can you do that when the main purpose of the game is to slow down and be cautious riding down these dangerous mountains? It's definitely a different way to approach the series, but it wasn't everybody's favorite. A lot of the smaller details people enjoyed about the original SSX games were gone in this one. The interactions between characters, the over-the-top levels one could only dream of, just a lot of the arcadey elements that made the game stand out. With a series like SSX, the presentation has to match the bombastic gameplay, which is definitely easier said than done. But that's not the only reason why people were dissatisfied with this game. The reality was, arcadey sports games were in a decline, and this was EA's last attempt to try and make it more relevant in the current gaming scene. This game would be one of the last few arcade-styled sports games to be released and had these microtransactions and timed events that EA likes to put in their games nowadays. It was just a sign of what the future of sports games would be like. With this change of direction, there would be no room for a sports game like SSX to exist nowadays. But if another game similar to SSX were to be made, there would have to be a lot of planning and care with how to approach it. Unless you want all the characters to play basketball, then I'm all for it.
SSX are on fire!
Got mad skills, got mad skills, I will get wild. Got mad skills, got mad skills, I will get wild. Got mad skills, I will get wild. Got mad skills,